So, poverty. Scary word, right? Conjures up images of starving kids in Africa or untouchables in India and all that jazz. Well, the World Bank thinks there are around 2.7 billion people living on under $2 a day in the world right now. Another 1 billion of these folks are living on under $1 a day. Most of these poor are living in Asia, close to 2 billion of them. Sub-Saharan Africa comes close with 516 million, followed by Latin America and the rest of the world. Okay, so what's being done about this? Well, the current really popular strategy among the movers and shakers is to foster economic development and growth. You look at a place like China, which turned itself from a backwater agricultural country in 1949 to an economic juggernaut at the turn of the millennium, and then look at how the number of people living under the $1 a day line dropped by 500 million, and you can see why people think it works. So, to grow your economy, you need money. And to get money when you don't have any, you have to either sell something or you gotta borrow it. The problem is, you can't really sell anything if you can't produce it, and you usually can't produce anything without any money, so you're right back to where you started. Now, this is where the idea of microfinance comes in. Microfinance works kind of like this. You lend money to a poor person. This poor fella uses the money to start a business, or to expand something that she already has, or whatnot, and presumably raises their income and drags themselves out of poverty. The reason that poor people can't already do this is because they really aren't considered bankable by formal financial institutions. Banks are businesses, after all, and poor people just don't bring home the cash. The World Bank estimates only 500 million of the 2.7 billion people below the poverty line have access to services like reasonable credit and savings accounts and stuff like that. Microfinance is what's supposed to change that. So how well does it really work? Well, that unfortunately is one of the problems with microfinance. One issue that's repeatedly brought up is scalability, and how it relates to a whole host of other issues with microfinance. The problem is, to reach out to the poor you need money, and if you rely on donors to get money, like most microfinance institutions do, you don't get nearly enough. So how do you balance charging really high interest rates on your loans with providing reasonable credit to other poor people? Money and visibility are big problems too. It's estimated $250 billion is needed to get capital to all the poor people who need it, while the close to 7,000 microfinance institutions in the world right now have only loaned out about $25 billion. And how are they going to get more when almost none of them are actually making profit? This is where the internet comes in.
The biggest advantage the internet offers to the microfinance paradigm is connectivity. Like we mentioned before, it's hard for microfinancial institutions to get noticed, and even harder for them to get funded. The networking power of the internet changes this. One of the leading pioneers of internet microfinance is Kiva.org, the first person-to-person microlending website, as they call themselves. Kiva works with 95 microfinance institutions called field partners. Entrepreneurs request loans from their local microfinance, which sends it over to Kiva. Prospective lenders, which are people like you and me, can browse and look through these loan requests and loan to people we wish to. Not only that, but you can also receive progress reports and updates from the borrowers, provided by the field partners. Obviously, this is a much cheaper way of raising capital for the microfinance institutions. Kiva links the sources of money to those who need them, and the internet provides a fast and effective means of transporting that money. Kiva recently released an application programming interface for its website, unlocking huge potential for development of software that further enables linking and connectivity. An immense amount of data concerning loans, lenders, and borrowers is now freely available on the internet. The Kiva API is called a RESTful Web Service API. Pieces of information, such as loan info or lender info, are stored on Kiva's server as resources. Data can be requested using the API by querying Kiva with GET commands, and then can be used for whatever purpose the app designer requires. Examples of apps that have already been developed include Kiva World, which shows the locations of recent loan activity overlaid on a world map. A Facebook application has also been created. It informs friends about loans that you have made and even allows you to recommend loan seekers that you may like. A complete Kiva network map has also been created. All of these fit well with the stated goal of the API release, to provide further means of bringing together the prospective lender and the prospective entrepreneur.
No one really knows if microfinance is effective at reducing poverty. There are too many case studies and anecdotes and not enough serious scientific studies. But at least with the example of Kiva.org, some of the problems that seem to be holding microfinance back can be dealt with the judicious application of the internet.